Welcome to Your American Dream. I'm Anisha Jennings, and today we're exploring how childhood memories can spark sustainable innovation with Pallavi Pande, whose palm leaf tableware company DTOCS is revolutionizing how America dines while changing lives across continents. Welcome, Pallavi. I'm so excited to have you on my show.
Thank you for having me. I'm equally excited, and I hope my excitement comes through the screen outside.
Lovely. So tell us about your journey from India to US and the story of detox.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. And it's been a fun ride all the way from country A, country B. Of course, nothing was planned. Didn't know that one day I would be immigrating to a new country. Perhaps I did. And that came probably without a choice because I got married at a very young age, at 22, which was almost 18 years ago. And then I just had to follow my spouse who was here in the United States. So 1 week after I got married, I was here as an immigrant. I didn't know what that life looked like. But since being in India, my roots were very much embedded into Catholic convent schools. So I was very disciplined in life, routine. So the transition didn't quite feel a big deal for me because people were like, "How are you living? What's going on? Do you have Indian store there? Do you even get your Maggi noodles, which is like the Indian noodles, Indian ramen noodles?" And those questions were very surprising. When I look back today, I feel it's so funny the how we evolved today after 18 years. But all those questions I never even thought of, that how am I going to live with something I've eaten since I was a kid, like kindergarten? How am I going to survive in a different country where English is, of course, not our first language, or we don't know where to get our Indian groceries and the food from? Because why? We've been comforted by that food for our life, right? So all that was the fun part of writing that journey between the countries. And of course, I'm the first generational immigrant in United States, and we built a life here, like so-called American dream, with a husband who's been with me for 18 years. Hopefully he's still happy and we still want to stick together. And then two kids who are 12 and 10 now, very responsible kids. And here's the validation of what we are doing here works, or this is a better transition for our lifestyle. My in-laws, who are 85 and 80 years of age, finally decided to transition with us to United States last year.
Amazing.
So now we are a family of six living in a house, living the American dream with the independence and freedom and safety that we all thought of and dreamed of. And that was my first rule, which I wanted, was safety for myself, safety for two daughters that I'm raising, and safety for all the family members. Because I really want to go to bed at night when my husband is on boys' day out or night out or whatever, right? So, and we our kids are growing; they're becoming teenagers soon. They'll be driving, so I want to be peaceful. Uh,
Yeah.
that has been my journey for from a personal perspective, and it's been ups and downs, of course, because there'll be a lot of surprises at your face, whether it's for health insurances or any other purpose where we weren't prepared for it or we didn't know how to maneuver it. We had to learn a lot of things coming to a new country, the system, how it works. But as long as you have the will and you have the capability to be curious and to figure it out, it works in your favor. And I think you have to be at peace, and and practicing gratitude every day from where you come from, of course, helps you uh, appreciate every day in your life.
Absolutely. That is so well said. Yeah, that's amazing that your in-laws are here with you too, and that's really, really cool. So how did you convince them to come here in their 80s? Because nobody wants to, once they are in India and they have their lifestyle, they have community, they have, religious, like if they go to church, or they have their own little circle, right? So how did they be convinced to come here?
Of course. So definitely was not easy. It took a lot of years. So the last 10 years, they've been doing back and forth every 6 months. So they would live here for 6 months, especially during the summertime when it's not cold for them, and then hibernate to India when it's winter time. So it's been challenging for them now because now they're older. So it's very hard for them to do those 24-hour flights, whether it's with connections, and it's just getting tougher and tougher. And also, it's because me and my husband got out of India at a very young age. Like I was 22 when I got out. My husband was 21 years of age when he got out. Of course, we both came for different reasons. I got married and I came with my spouse versus my husband came here for his graduation, which is master's and then MBA and then a job. So he had a plan. And of course, he wanted a better life and opportunity for himself. So he chose that route. But then I think we both align with the values that we see here, whether, like I told you, it's in terms of safety or the freedom that we want to do for ourselves, our decisions that we want to make. Or we both are not very religious, but we are spiritual in a way. So we don't feel the pressure of, hey, you have to go to the church or the temple or do this that way. And we're like, why? Give us those reasons. So we've been that generation that has raised voices, raised questions, and asked for reasons. And we hope to carry that cultural aspect to our children. Like, we don't want to be telling them, do this. Rather, we'll have a conversation that, do you think you should do this, or why not? Why don't you do it this way? So having that open-ended conversation is important because I feel dearly that we didn't have that when growing up, and that is something I wish we had it. Then our reasoning would be better. Maybe our choices would have been way better since our childhood, or we would just have turned out a different way. But no regrets or complaints to how we turned out today, because again, you have to keep evolving. And if you evolve at 80 years of age or 70, it's your choice. And hopefully it's still aligning with your values when you're making these transitions. So I think that's what happened with my in-laws. Whenever they come here, they of course see that there is a system of doing everything. There's a timeline. There is an appointment ease. They don't have to wait in lines for 10 hours to do something, like unlike in India. Like they go to doctor's visits a lot. And I know going to a doctor visit is going to like a shrine, which is like a whole day thing that they'll be packing lunch and dinner. Oh, how will we get food? How will we get water? And I'm like, those are little things you should not have to be worried about if you're going to a doctor's appointment. It should be as easy as walking into a cafeteria and ordering yourself a food that you deserve, hot food that you can eat in peace. So all of those things, then they had to put it into perspective that those things you can't live with it every day with like that. So that's why they decided to move here with us, because the facilities are better, more access to opportunities, and it just in a better structured way. And quite so frankly, Americans might not think that way, but when you live in a third world country where you come from, and when you see that part or that perspective, and again, like I said, put gratitude to the way it's happening in your life today. It might not be satisfactory to what you want it to be, but it's still better than how it's done in other countries. So those were some of the reasonings that my in-laws had to figure out, and they gave up everything and came to their only son because of our Indian culture. You know how it is, right? My husband has two sisters, and they have their own families, and it's fine. We don't want to put the burden on them, but whenever my in-laws are more than welcome to go back and live with them, because now they even sold their house in India, so they really don't have any place to go. They will have to eventually stay with my sister-in-laws. But that being said, a son is supposed to take care of the parents in our Indian culture, and there's nothing wrong about it, because if you see it in a different perspective, we get rich in more family members, we get more time to bond with grandparents. The grandkids and grandparents, they learn how to take care of each other, and I think that's the beauty in life. Like if you can be selfless and if you can learn how to take care of other people in your life, it's rewarding. And those were the values that we wanted in our family. And we were like, sure, we'll try to live together. And of course, there were challenges. We had to figure out boundaries and
Yes.
responsibilities. And we had to just be advocative and talk about it.
Yes, yes, lovely. That's amazing. I saw this video or like an article somewhere where they mentioned that grandparents who live close to their grandkids, they tend to live longer because they both keep each other engaged, and there's a lot of benefits to living closer. So yay, kudos to that. That's amazing. So tell us about Detox, your business. How did that start, and what is it all about?
Sure, I'd love to. So, Detox is an e-commerce brand that started 5 years ago. And the spelling of detox is a very non-standardized, non-traditional spelling of the word detox. And this is a fun, cool five-letter word spelled as DTOCS, like literally the alphabet D and then the word tox after that, which is TOCS. And it echoes with the meaning cleansing journey with palm leaves, because notoriously I have become the mompreneur who rescues palm leaves. And if you're wondering what kind of palm leaves, like palm leaves from California or Florida, no, this would be a variety of palm leaves called Areca palm leaves, or in other words, betel nut. And the purpose of the tree is to produce betel nuts. And once the nuts are consumed, the leaves fall down. And that is where our work begins. We start capturing the leaves that are on the ground. They naturally shed, and we gather them and we heat compress them to make them into your plates, bowls, spoons, straws, and charcuterie boards. Basically, sustainable alternatives that can replace your cheap papers, toxic plastics, expensive bamboos, and boring heavy chinaware at either your home parties or your business events or corporate events. And this is something we cater to the consumers and businesses in America and in Canada. And again, the story goes back to because I've had 10 years of experience in logistics and supply chain. So I knew how to move stuff between country A, country B, country C, wherever in the most efficient way. What are those softwares? What are the tools? How to do manufacturing? How to get wholesale price? What does manufacturing price looks? All of those deeper knowledge. And I was like, time to get my product in business. And here is a personal story. It goes back to finding a solution to my own problem of entertaining or hosting at home. I used to be a shopper who used to go to Costco and buy the wholesale 500 packs of paper plates. Why? Because life is all about convenience. I hate doing dishes, but I love to party. But at the end of the day, when I was changing those trash bags, I was dying of guilt. Like, what am I doing? And then I had to see my kids, and I was like, what am I role modeling? So when I took a deeper reflection onto my way of living, the lifestyle, hosting, entertainment, and the choices we were making, that's when I recalled that, you know what, in India we still practice the culture of eating on banana leaves. So I don't know when was the last time you visited India, but whoever is listening to us today, whenever you do visit India, go to the southern part of India because they don't serve food on plates. They serve food on banana leaves, and you will be asked to use your fingers to eat that food, but you don't have to. You can request a spoon, definitely. But that being said, that is a piece of my culture I wanted to represent, and I wanted to go back to when it comes to nostalgia. And I was like, you know what? I dearly miss that culture. And how am I raising my kids here without that cultural experience? So, what can I do about it? So, that's why I went back to India and I figured out there is this practice of heat compressing the leaves. All I had to do is start the supply chain, start a brand, and then really have our values that we can commit to and deliver to our customers. So, that is how we built the whole brand, Detox brand. And since then, we've become a seven-figure brand. We've scaled in two countries. We've served 1,000, like 10,000 direct to consumers, at least 500 caterers, at least 500 event planners, wedding planners, charcuterie board makers, and even corporations who value sustainability and who just don't want to deal with renting chinaware or having the cheap papers and plastic. So we become that sweet spot for those people who just don't want to do dishes.
Yes, amazing, lovely, lovely. That's very cool. That's such a nice idea that, you brought a part of you and your culture, you held on to it, and you're still assimilating here. So how did you experience, what is your experience with cultural shock and your business?
The first one would be I remember when I came up with the idea that, hey, why don't we manufacture these palm leaf plates and sell it to the consumers? Believe it or not, people mocked and they said, what? You're going to sell leaves and make money? Like, how do you even do that? Because it goes back to the mindset that in India, the street vendors, they actually use the actual raw leaf to serve street food, which is way cheaper, right? And nobody or people could just not vision having those products in a very premium to elevate events. So that was
Right.
the whole mind shift thing that I had to play around with cultural shock. Like, oh, these are the cheap leaves that we use on the streets, and then we just eat it and throw it. I'm like,
Mhm.
yes, that's the concept, but how do you edify the value that you can provide it
Mhm.
with? So that's why we didn't stick with banana leaves or actual leaves. We actually use a different material, which is Areca palm leaves. And the concept with that was because it looks like bamboo. So bamboo looks stylish. It is very sturdy. The only thing is for bamboo, you have to grow it to cut it. Versus here, the Areca palm leaves provides you everything else, which is the look, the style, the sturdiness, it's way more sustainable because it composts in 90 days because it's a leaf. It just composts just like outside. When you don't pick up the leaves from the ground, they start composting, they start becoming black, right? And you don't have to grow it and then cut it. A palm tree takes 3 years to completely grow and start shedding its leaf. So it's as easy as that. So you're using renewable materials, renewable resources, and you're helping the environment to give them a purpose again. So that was the biggest cultural shock that I didn't know we could do something like that with leaves, and really building that brand around leaves and showing people that okay, this is possible. Why? Because we came from this mindset, which is we use this and just throw this on the street. Like people don't even bother to pick it up to put it in trash, right? That's the beauty. It will compost on its own in 90 days. So you compost or not, or put it in the trash pile, as long as it's not sealed inside a plastic bag, it will break down up to an extent for sure. And we are 100% compostable certified by CMA. That stands for Composting Manufacturing Alliance in the whole nation and in Canada.
That's amazing. Congratulations. That's really commendable. So when you use so the palm leaves itself is all natural. So when you're creating the products, the end products, the materials that you use for them, is that also what is that material and is it all safe as well?
Yes, so it is just one material because a lot of times people will be like, how is this a leaf? But this looks like bamboo. Like even today, it's funny, people find our products as bamboo plates and they always call it the bamboo plates because they look like bamboo. And that awareness piece is missing still. Like we still have to tell people it looks like bamboo. It is not bamboo, it is palm leaf. So it's just one ingredient, just one leaf. And people are surprised with its sturdiness because what happens is every leaf has a different thickness because the quality of leaf matters. And that's why it's important to see where do you want to source your palm leaf from, whether it's going to be Brazil, whether it's going to be Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, India, because every country will have a different quality of the leaf, which is in the thickness and also the textures of the leaves. They're going to be way different. And that's what the most challenging part of this business is, that when the collection of the leaves happen, and which is only seasonal, it's like in the 6 months when the leaves are shedding, that's the time to pick them up because then they start rotting away. So you have to pick them up during that time. And it's a very rigorous process because a lot of leaves look very different. Some of them will be very black. They look like mold, but it's actually gluten of the leaf. It's not mold. Or it's the different texture of the leaves, or it could be bacteria. So you have to sort it out. That sorting takes a lot of time and effort. And that's where we in Detox are really known to only deal with premium quality leaf. And that's why when you see the quality of our products in terms of other palm leaf tableware vendors, you'll notice three things. First is, of course, the quality of the leaf, which is going to be very superior. The second one is going to be the different exclusive shapes and designs we have. So we offer a boat platter where my kids, when they were young, they used to take it in the bathtub with their chips or Doritos in it and play in it. And that platter used to just float and it was waterproof. Like nothing would go inside. Like, can you imagine like a paper plate in your bathtub?
Wow,
So that's the second
that's
one. And the
awesome.
third one is we are one of the only brands who's investing in 100% compostable packaging wrap on the products. So because of these reasons, we are very unique from other vendors in the market today.
Lovely. I love that. I love that boat in the tub. So, what aspects of American business culture were most surprising to you?
Definitely coming from India, where nobody in my family runs a business. I had no clue. I didn't even have an MBA degree, right? So coming from there and then coming to US and realizing, so I did come to US at 22 and then I decided to get my master's in electrical engineering with that mindset of coming from, oh, I have bachelor's degree in engineering. So what am I going to do? Master's in engineering, right? Because that's the only thing we know. But then I realized, oh shoot, like if I have to go back 15 years when I was in college, I wish I got my master's degree because those things that we apply to our business, the financial pieces or the marketing pieces, it's so real. Like I wish I could have learned that from the American culture or the system and applied it towards my business.
Amazing. So, how do you blend Indian and American business practices in running Detox?
Definitely. So the way it would work is definitely from the very beginning get onto systems. And that is something I feel is lacking a lot of times in general. I don't know how much do we value systems and structures in place. So coming to US, that is something I had to involve in my life the day I had my kid. Like I need to build a system around me because now I have to breastfeed, I have to go to the bathroom at the same time, and I have to take a shower or whatever, right? So I had to figure out a way how to build a system in my life. And that is something when I go back to India, when I see my cousins or family members, I don't think they follow a system or a routine for that per se routine, but that routine is kind of my system. And if I deviate from it, it gives me anxiety. If I deviate from it, I can't perform better, or it just makes me insane and yelling at a different person. So that is something I see is quite a big gap. Maybe the youngsters now, I mean, I've been out for 18 years, so I don't know how the families are operating or how the single people are operating who work late night shifts. Like, do they have a system? Do they do a routine for their lives, like having a cup of tea in the morning at peace, listening to chanting or whatever that looks like? So when I see my sister, who's 6 years younger to me, still living in India, I mean, I see she has some routine, but I just feel here we've become more, we value that routine much more here, and we see the value in it, and we try to teach that to our kids. And we, like I said, even my in-laws have a routine or that structure now, and it's because everybody within that system or structure is happy because they're following a certain way of doing things. And in the same time, they all have that freedom of choosing whatever they want to do. So it's a good blend of having systems and structures. And that is something I think when I was in India, I never had that as a kid or as an adult kid or as a person who was even going to college. Like we would wake up at 1 a.m. or we would go to bed at 5 p.m. I mean, those are still youngsters do it here. But again, maybe those systems and structures I valued now as I'm getting older.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, how did we even stay up so late? How did we sleep in so much? Like, it just throws you off. So, I guess it's just the way of life because of how busy everything is. And again, there's a lot of structure over here, and there's not many options over here. So that makes you, you can choose what you want to do and follow your passion and whatever you feel called to do. So I guess it brings more peace in your life because now you're not forced into one thing or the other. So
And I also feel we can back this up with this statement. Maybe you can contribute to what I'm saying is in India, you can, of course, find a maid to cook, a maid to clean, a maid to make your bed, a maid to play with your kids. So there are just so many of those um, opportunities or delegations possible there versus we are limited to that here in the United States, and we somehow have to figure out when do we do all of that. So I think those structures are very well appreciated in our lifestyle here more than in India because of those freedoms or opportunities that are easily available there, that access we don't.
absolutely. Absolutely. There's always help. There's always someone to help you do things. You can always lean on. Like community is very tight. Definitely. So, what role has your cultural background played in differentiating your brand?
Oh, I will say a lot, like 100%, because I think this is something I've been advocating for, that representation matters, no matter whether it's your language, whether it's your food. And since my kids were youngsters, like they used to take our Indian lentil and rice in their lunch boxes. And I remember a lot of times they would be coming back to school, like I didn't finish it or I didn't even open my lunchbox because of how embarrassed they were. Or yeah, these things are real. They happen. And again, you can't force them to, but as long as they understand it, that it shouldn't be an embarrassment. But if there's any other reason, like it leaks from my lunchbox, or I don't have enough time to eat it, or it gets soggy, like for example, the Indian parathas, the bread, the stuffed breads. My
Yeah.
kids at one time, they despise parathas now. Like they don't
Oh,
get to school. Again, why? Because they're reasoning. Because I didn't want them to say because we are embarrassed to eat it. Your culture shouldn't be an embarrassment. It should be a thing of pride, something which is unique to you, something that binds you to other people because you share something in common, right? So those are moments of pride versus embarrassment, but they had a valid reason, which is like when you pack this for us, either it gets cold and we don't have access to microwave. Okay, I will make it for you fresh when you come back from school. So problem, solved. Or it gets too soggy, or it gets very hard like a frisbee. So and that's why you have to have open-ended questions with your kids. Like, what is the reason? Tell me more about it. And not just force them that, you have to take it. because I don't know anything else how to cook it. So again, as a parent, I can get out of my culture and I can learn a lot of other things, but I can still have my culture intact, whether it's food, through food, and I'm talking about food because the first thing we associate with culture is food. But again, we can go to clothing. Like a lot of times when we do our Indian ethnic wear, we only wear it for festivals, right? But I was thinking this, what if I go to a WBENC conference? WBENC is a national organization that certifies you as a women owned in the whole nation, right? And they have conferences, they have events, they have pitch competitions. And I was in one of the pitch competition last year, and I thought, what if I wear my traditional sari in a green color? Of course, stick to branding piece, but still somehow blend my culture because the inspiration of my business is my culture and that nostalgia of eating on leaves. So what if I wear my sari and I go on the stage? So keeping that culture still alive, being proud of it, and it's also about some of the people are not even aware. So just treat it like your business, your brand. Like you have to constantly tell people what your product is, who you are, what this product does, because you can't expect people to assume or know. There are so many Americans who have never eaten Indian food, who've never even gone out of America or even perhaps their state. So it's okay. It's you shouldn't put the burden on them that they should know everything. But what you can do is take pride in your culture and somehow blend it in your business to come out with a great story and have a motivation to speak it to other people so that they're inspired, because you never know who you're inspiring in this journey, because that person might have their culture and they might be thinking about bringing their culture into their business somehow. And I've always seen great products or great business stories, brand stories definitely have a piece of culture to their, whether it was their grandma's recipe or something they grew
Yes,
with. So that is an alignment I've seen in most of the brands.
absolutely. I love that. Comparing a paratha to a frisbee, I haven't heard that before. So,
Because sometimes they bring it from school, and when they throw it, before they throw it, they show it to me, and I am like, "You- seriously, this is like a frisbee."
well, that's interesting. I've never heard that. So, thank you for that. So, how did you find your voice as an immigrant entrepreneur in Portland?
Great question. One thing I knew about myself is I'm quite persistent. Whether it was getting money from my husband, like I need $100, like I need it now. Go to the ATM now. So whatever that looked like, or it was to my kids, like pick up your laundry now. Now means now. So one thing I knew, I was always very persistent, but I just learned how to give my voice, how to advocate and give myself a voice because of that persistency. And that's something I learned and I practiced, and I just set up myself. I had to train myself for it.
Lovely. So, what challenges did you face in establishing credibility as a new business in the US?
Well, it's a challenge even today because when people look at our products, some of them go like, "I don't need this." I'm like, "Mm-hmm." Like, think about a Thanksgiving dinner where your sink is full, and would you like to wash all those dishes? Again, putting things into perspective. So challenges are everywhere. That's a very small one. The biggest one would be, of course, going through the whole COVID experience because I manufacture in India, and at that time we could not even bring our containers on water through any ports or seas because everything was shut down. So I was losing on my purchase orders. We made zero sales, zero. And that had never happened. And I was like, okay, this is the end of my business. Okay, this is the end. Now what? And I quickly pivoted into building my social media because I was like, I'm not making any sales, but guess what? I can still go online, build my Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, Tumblr, whatever that looked like, YouTube. And that's the time I invested because at the end of the year, I realized a big community that I had built, and people were following us, people were texting us because all that was still happening. So definitely that was one of the biggest challenge that I just didn't know how to maneuver. But that's when I found a lot of accelerator programs. So this is a resource to everybody. Find the accelerator programs that speak to you, and different accelerator programs different provide different things. So I joined them because I didn't know how to increase traffic on my website or even have a good website. I still have a bad website. I still say it because it doesn't function. Like we don't have SEO. People don't show up on my website until I tell them, go do this. So all I'm saying is the challenges are like I didn't know any of the resources that I know today of. Like for example, call your SBDC, small business development center. Every county, every state has these SBDC centers for small business owners at no cost to you, which is whatever help you need. Hey, I need help with filing a business, a name on the county, or whatever your question looks like, call them and take it to them. And those were the resources that I found out through these programs. And that's when I started thinking, how do I pay forward to other founders? And that's when I started mentoring a lot of them and telling them about communities to be a part of. And some of them offer technical assistance or grant money that, hey, we have $1,000 that we can give to you to make your website, as long as you can prove what you want, how are you going to do it. So all of that ecosystem, you once you fall into it, you can utilize these resources that are there. So definitely those were the challenging pieces to get to know them. But I feel now I can save somebody all those years of knowledge, and fast forward, they should know all of this now once they talk to me.
Absolutely. That's amazing. So you still turn the challenge into a learning and a process. That's awesome. How has being an immigrant influenced your approach to innovation?
Oh boy, innovation. I mean, we are immigrants. When we come with the survival of the fittest mode, and we know what it takes to get up higher and higher in the quality of life. So if you don't innovate, or if you don't think outside the box, if you only think 9 to 5, how are you going to create a lifestyle for yourself that you desire? Like, this is your need, but what if you want this much? So, I mean, as long as you're satisfied here, great. If that's your lifestyle, and that's what I tell my daughters, that if your desire is to live in a camper, and if you just want to not live in a Hyatt, then that's find a peace there. Then get a job for yourself, or just stay in where you're happy. But if you want to go outside the box, think creatively, innovate something, maybe become founders of something amazing tomorrow, like a flying car or whatever. AI is helping so much. So the more into an innovative mindset you are, the faster chances of yourself setting up yourself unique and different from others. Like, what is something that you can do that others cannot? And I always tell them that how do you differentiate yourself? How are you unique? What is that thing where people will either remember you, call you for? And that's something I highly believe in, even role modeling. So whether it's innovating a community, innovating a product, innovating any idea, anything. Like, you just have to come up with new things. That's what I call innovations. Even innovating a new recipe. And this is something I see at home. My daughter, my older one, 12 years, is into cooking a lot. And she innovates like her own recipes. She mixes a lot of things that you wouldn't even get in the market. So she's innovating at home, believe it or not. And that's because we've role modeled at home. And that's a testament to see that tomorrow they might be a Michelin star chef creating their own recipe, innovating something. So I'm just saying that you have to give them guidance, and you have to keep role modeling. And that's where I think my persistency helps, because I have a vision, which I think of as very long term, that if what is she getting right now, I don't care. But as long as I'm training her for something, what she will get out of it, it's going to be a number of things.
Absolutely. That's amazing. Thank you for sharing that. I love that. So, how do you navigate being a cultural bridge between Indian artisans and American consumers?
It's a great question, a great one dear to my heart, because when I started my business, I had choices of where I want to source my raw material, which is palm leaves. I was intentional, and my purpose went back to giving back to the community that I come from. Growing up in India, being born there, I wanted to support the women artisans. So we did partner with women artisans who manufacture the products and who add value to my offerings, whether it's in terms of brand story, our premium products, quality, whatever it is. That's where we started. And then we went into donating sewing machines to other women, because believe it or not, India still, I feel, is a male dominated society. Even when I go back today, I see so much of gap between the way males are treated versus females. But I know the newer generation is breaking all those barriers. They are no more financially dependent, or they're independent doing their own jobs, whatever. Yes, but going back to the internal part of India, like the rural villages and all of that, these problems still exist. And there's no way we can take it out of our culture, which is fine, the way it is, that's fine. But what we can do about it, we can still empower those women by giving them livelihoods, by supporting them with jobs, by employing them, or by just donating them sewing machines where now they have a purpose. And going back to two stories, when we were donating those sewing machines, we partnered with a nonprofit called Anmol Sahara, which means invaluable support in New Delhi. And those women were handpicked because one of them's husband was dying of cancer, one of them was single, somebody was divorced, or whatever. They just had that financial need. One woman, when I went to donate her the sewing machine, she did the inauguration of her shop. So she leased the whole shop for one sewing machine. And believe it or not, the rent of that shop was way much more higher than the cost of that sewing machine. And I asked her, how are you going to sustain this? And she was like, don't worry, ma'am. I have made my whole business plan, like how much sewing I need to do with this machine, how much revenue I need to make, and what my profit margins are going to look like so that I can take a paycheck home after using your sewing machine. So this is how much valuable it is for me right now. Very
Wow.
hot. And another one was
Yes.
a whole sewing school with one sewing machine. And how do you run a whole school? And she came back to me and she showed me her ledger. That ledger said that I'm going to be renting the sewing machines for 10 hours to 10 women, 1 hour per person. And this is my revenue, this is my profit margin, and this is how I run a school. So these are such impactful stories. And we can't even fathom from here what that money can do to those women. So it's about really being intentional and saving that money and putting it in their mouth so that you can make an effort. So this was just one story. And then we went beyond that to sponsoring educational scholarships to children in India. I know we were talking about women artisans, but we went beyond that to children. Why? Because those children are the future of tomorrow. And if they can get the proper education they deserve, because everybody deserves equal opportunity for a good education, that's something I personally believe in. And because my parents sent me to the best Catholic convent school in India, though we didn't have a car, we had no house, we used to lease, and my parents barely made it work, like their food every day. But they invested all of that into my study, into my education. So I highly value it, and I see it, what education can do to you. So talking on all these are our social impacts that we've been doing with children and women.
I love that. Those are such lovely stories. It's very nice to hear the impact that your business is making and that one sewing machine can make so much of a difference. That is amazing. So, what advice would you give other immigrant entrepreneurs about maintaining authenticity while adapting to the US market?
So I think for the immigrant listeners, I don't know if you can agree to this. Most of us, when we immigrate, we generally come with a job safety net. Like, generally, one person in the family has a 9 to 5 stable job. And that's the reason why us as immigrants, either one or both of us, can take that risk and jump into a business and see if this works or not. Because it's all a trial and error in the beginning, at least. But then when you're intentional and when you've done your market research and when you know you want to get into business with this, because none of us gets in with that clarity, at least most of us. I didn't, because this is my third business, believe it or not. My other two, I just wanted to do business because business was cool and I just wanted a passive income or additional income in the family. But the third time worked like a charm because I had a couple of experiences from the past businesses. I knew exactly what to do, what not to do. I did my market research, and here I was trying to solve my own problem in my own kitchen, in my own parties. And I thought, what if there are 100 people like me? So all those deeper reflections and moments were important in business journey. So that's the tip. That's the tangible tip I want to give everybody, that don't just start business to start a business or have a passive income. Put that intentions behind it to what is it that you want to do. And again, it could be as easy as selling jewelry. That's fine, because you love jewelry. I don't. And that was, I bring that up because jewelry was my second business. My second company did jewelry, but I don't wear jewelry. I don't value jewelry. I don't know how to sell jewelry. So I could never become a brand in selling jewelry. So maybe other people are good at it, and that's where you want to show your passion and your why. Why do you want to sell jewelry? So just stick with that, and that's how you bring authenticity.
Yes. So basically follow your passion and have a strong why.
Yeah. And again, it's okay to fail. That's what I'm trying to tell people here. This is my third business. My other two, I will not say the word failure. I will only say experiences. Makes you wiser, and it makes you more clearer or what you want to do, where you want to go.
Absolutely. So, what role has mentorship played in your business journey?
I will say a big role, because there have been not just one mentor, but a lot of mentors in my life. And again, to fulfill a different need each time. One mentor could be good with networking or connections. The other mentor could be good with helping me down how to find out how to place my product pricing. So again, different mentors could play different roles. You can't just have one mentor excellent in everything, helping you out with everything. So just like how you need protein, carbohydrates to fulfill your body needs, similarly, you could have a lot of mentors. And again, you have to make sure that you are aligning with that mentor and the mentor is aligning with your values. It's a two-way street. It's not just that you need this mentor for something. Also, how are you helping this mentor, or how are you seeing this mentor as leadership quality role? So definitely mentors are important, and how you can find them is if you've been following somebody for 2 years, reach out to them and say, I've been following your work and I would love to brainstorm with you if you want to mentor me for 30 minutes every month or every week. Get them on your board of directors for your business, or have them have a piece of your business if you want them, if you want to honor their time. So there are so many different ways of holding on to a mentor if you really like them, or if you don't know where to start from, go do these accelerator programs, because you'll see these accelerator programs would pair you up with mentors and they would ask you, what is your need? And that's how they would do mentor matchmaking. So there are so many ways, and definitely you don't have to stick with a mentor if they don't align. It's like a relationship, it's like dating. And if that is not going well, drop the mentor. That's fine. Don't have to feel guilty, but be responsible, have a clear cut communication that, you know what, this was not working because of this, and I value your time and mine. So have that ball, have that guts and the courtesy to keep a transparent, honest relationship, because you're also turning into somebody and you're building your leadership or your experience. So you want to do it in the right way.
Absolutely. Communication is the key. It's definitely so important, and it's even more important in business. So how do you balance staying connected to your roots while growing a modern American brand?
Oh boy, if I had a private chopper or airplane, I would be going back to my roots every time. Or if I was a genie, I would just back by blinking my eyes. But life doesn't permit me that way. So I do try to visit India a couple of years here and there, because my in-laws live here. All my first generation, second generation, even third generation is here. My parents come and visit. So it's very hard to go back to India every year. So we have to really time it out on our calendar, even now with kids getting older, middle school, with school, and my in-laws being old, we really can't leave them home alone. So a lot of constraints, but what we can do is, it's funny, we come to America, we find Indian restaurants to eat in, we find Indian groceries to do grocery in, and then we buy plane tickets to go to India, and we choose not to live in India, and we come here for all of this. No, the point is, that was sarcastically said, but the point is, these are little ways how to keep in touch and still blend the cultures, and keep taking your kids to Indian restaurants, keep taking them to the temples, just keep doing what you grew up with, not because they should, but because you want them to experience what you did. So coming from that place of mind and showing them the journey that you went, and it's then their choice whether they want to go on that journey or not, and they might leave it when they're 16, or they might continue it when they're 30. So it's again about legacy, what you want to pass down, right?
Yes, yes. Thank you so much for sharing all of this and your experience and all the information. So where do you find these accelerated programs?
Where do you find them? So again, definitely LinkedIn is a good way. I have found a lot of accelerator programs, information on LinkedIn, a lot of through newsletters of big companies. And again, Google would be your best friend. Like just type an accelerator program in your city. You can start from there, or you can do national accelerator programs that you can do virtually. You don't even need to be in that city or town to do it. And what would come out of this is, of course, you would be richer in your network. You'll get to meet more founders just like yourself. You can resonate with them. You can share with them. You can have accountability partners. You can have mentors. So you'll be just getting access to so much more than not being a part of it. And again, you have to measure it with your time and capacity, of course, because sometimes there's one person who's running the company. Sometimes there are 50. So depending on what your need at that time is, you can pretty much choose an accelerator program there, because there's something being offered almost every day, and you can find them on Google.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much again for your time and being here. For our listeners, tell us 2 or 3 takeaways from your experience as an immigrant woman entrepreneur in the US.
Definitely scary, but you have to face your fear. You always do, whether as a mom, as a wife, as so now get your business owner hat and face that fear and get to it. Second one, when you're taking these, when you're facing your fear and when you're taking a plunge into entrepreneurship, don't go crazy. Don't start with investing $1 million in your business. Start small. Always, that's my tip. Whenever you're experimenting with your business idea or product or service or whatever, start with a small experiment, something that's doable, something you can measure, and then something you can scale once you know it works or it doesn't, right? You can pivot quickly. So those are my two tips.
Thank you for sharing that. So if somebody wants to work with you or purchase your products, I know you have your website, www.dtocs.com. Besides that, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what are the ways they can get in touch with you?
Thank you for asking because I'm a LinkedIn fanatic. Like people do Instagram and TikTok, I spend hours on LinkedIn, and it's just because I get so much of passion and motivation and resources from LinkedIn. It's like what just people are doing. It's so
Yeah.
much. But anyway, I love two-way communication, so please find me on LinkedIn, connect, send us a text, send us a message that you listen to this podcast, and if there's any way I can provide more resources, definitely connect. And yes, we love small business support and love on Instagram, and we want to grow our followers. And just check us out on our website, like Anisha just mentioned.
Thank you so much. Thank you again for taking the time to be on my show and sharing all about your wonderful business. And for our listeners, all the information to get in touch with Pallavi will be in the show notes.
Thank you.
As we conclude our conversation with Pallavi, remember that successful businesses can nurture both nature and community. This is Anisha Jennings reminding you that sometimes the most sustainable dreams start with a simple leaf. Until next time.